Greetings and welcome into the Sports Shuffle. It is August 24th. I am Flying Ryan Gilchrist along with,
Tampa Motormouth, Joel Verlin.
and we are going to talk about our quarterback and wide receiver rankings on this episode today. We will also do a second smaller podcast after we did a best ball draft, Joel's first ever best ball draft. We'll go over that, but we'll do that after. If you see me looking over here, I'm actually trying to get my iPad to stay open. So, Joel, tell us how you thought, just quickly. Don't go into detail, but how you reacted to your first best ball draft.
It was interesting because the one thing that it would seem normal at first until I started getting down to the n- later rounds because in the back of your mind, you're kicker DST, and you were like, yeah, we don't have kickers or DSTs. You're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just taking more shots at the dartboard then. So, boing.
Yeah, we'll go more into depth in how we drafted, who we got, who we liked, who we didn't. Um, on the second one, we'll do that after this one. So we're going to start with our quarterback and running back rankings, some busts, some sleepers, some do not drafts from both, general strategy. And we are going to start with our quarterbacks on the NFL football field. The quarterbacks are by far the most important person on the field. I would say the second most important athlete in sports behind possibly an NHL goaltender. I do know there are some people out there that would disagree with that, but quarterback can only do so much because they're only on one side of the ball. Goaltenders out there at all times. That's just my theory on that. Anyways, so Joel, when you look at a quarterback, what is your general strategy looking like?
As you're looking for, in the case of that I've learned, I think 2 or 3 years ago, it would have been okay, you wanna go after the flashy ones. Man, if you can get Lamar, did say 2 years ago, but one thing I've definitely learned is that when you get the flashy quarterback, guess what? If they get injured, you're in a world of hurt. So that's when I've sort of taken, I think over the last 2 years, it's been tough because when you wanna go after the flashy quarterback, you wanna go after the studs, but you don't realize the value that you're giving up early by trying to get the quarterbacks. And then, of course, if something happens, you're screwed. So
Yeah.
if you end up waiting for the quarterbacks, and that's tough. It's really hard to do because you're, especially when you have that train of quarterbacks, so that all of a sudden you can see boom, 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 and you're going like, okay, who am I going to be having? Oh, Roethlisberger, yay, or just throwing out a name there. But when you realize it's good to go later, and you might be giving up the flashy studs, but you're going to go have better QB. You're going to have better RBWRTE depth
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah, that's my first point is waiting will bring you value. You know who won the MVP last year? Aaron Rodgers. You know what average round he was drafted in? 11. He was drafted super late last year, and he was the NFL MVP. Josh Allen was number 1 overall. He was a 7th or 8th round pick last year. You want to try and find that guy who is going to be a top 5 pick next year.
You know
He's going to be the
who,
hot name next year.
crazy enough, who probably is going to win people their leagues this year? Jameis Winston.
Very, very possible. We'll get more into that. Did they name the starter yet today? I know
Don't
last night's game was going to go
think
a good
so.
way.
Don't
Jameis
think
Winston
so.
looked a lot better.
There's a lot of Winston hype out there today. I mean, you have
Winston
about
looked great
about
last week.
250% more Winston hype today than you had pregame.
Yeah, Winston was great last night. We'll get possibly more into him with some of our bust sleepers and do not draft lists, but you're going to look for the guy that is going to be a top 5, top 6 pick next year. Your Justin Herberts, who is going right now quarterback 7 off the board. He was not drafted last year. That's the kind of guy you're hoping to find because then you get all your value early on. So seriously, there is no rush. There's plenty of options. If you're in a 10 or 12 team league or smaller, only draft the one quarterback. There's going to be plenty of options on the waivers to adjust for injuries or just pick up somebody better. Again, Justin Herbert, undrafted. You picked him up week 2, week 3, week 4. He was your plug and play starter the rest of the way. If you're in a 14-team league or larger, it's probably not the worst idea to get 2 decent quarterbacks just in case you have an injury, you have a bye week. Because I know in our 16-team league, you get to the bye weeks and all of a sudden it's like, oh, cool, I can play Drew Lock or Sam Darnold. Oh, great.
Herbert went 7-5 in the best ball.
Yeah. And he was the 5th quarterback off the board. So again, last year undrafted, 5th off the board. Again, ADP right now is 54, QB 7 on average based on Fantasy Pros. That takes a composite of ESPN, Yahoo, My Football League, Fantrax, FFC, and Sleeper into account to get their composite rankings, just so everybody's clear. So again, you can wait. Don't waste your early pick on Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, the ones going super early. Yes, they're guaranteed, but your top end guys to your mid tier guys, it's really only like a 2 to 4 point average per game difference. Something that you take Pat Mahomes at what his ADP is right now, 15. You're looking at your 3rd or 4th best wide receiver. You're looking at your 10th or 12th running back. The difference between that and the next round is more than that amount of points, and you cannot make it up with Pat Mahomes and all of that. So seriously, you can wait on the quarterbacks. I would say only draft 1 unless you're in a very deep league. Don't bother taking 2 because the value is just not there. So waiting will bring in some value. So with that being said, Joel, let's jump right into our busts. I don't know if any of ours agree this time. So Joel, let me know what you've got.
Okay, and we're starting with the Nickelbacks, right?
Yes, the Dimebacks.
All right. I've sort of have from the first one a combo, since both of these two are sort of joined at the hip when we're talking about the Broncos. But yeah, I think as a sleeper, just because everybody's definitely sleeping, I think on the Broncos as a whole, Lock and Bridgewater. You just not a lot of sexiness. You when you're thinking about quarterbacks, that they don't jump right out to you, but the more serviceable quarterbacks that you tend to get, they'll still score some points for you. That's easy for me to say, and
So there's sleepers for you.
yeah, correct.
Okay, so we'll do sleepers first, then we'll come back to busts. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I want to be on the same page because I got some non-sleepers for my busts, and I got some
okay. I think
just want to make sure.
I'm personally sleeping here.
It's all good. It's all good. All right, so keep going with your sleepers then.
Okay, so for those two, Lock and Bridgewater, the second one definitely has to be the most obvious sleeper. I think possibly the worst kept secret as far as sleepers go. Ended up alluding to him when we already talked about him. Of course, one Jameis Winston, that I think that he will definitely win people some leagues in between throwing interceptions and looking good, and maybe the eye surgery and everything and all that ended up helping. But I think he's going to be looked at more seriously. And the third one that I'm going to toss out, since I'm picking the other than Winston, I'm picking like the least sexy options possible here. How about Zach Wilson? No one's really going to be excited after the Jets after they missed out on Lawrence, and the Jets offense, while not sexy, maybe surprisingly functional, remembering the little bit of success they had at the end of 2020. So that probably is my number one sleeper out of all those three. Just sort of somebody who's definitely under the radar.
Yeah, Zach Wilson actually made my list too. He's quarterback 25, ADP of 199, so he's essentially free. He's going to be on a pass-happy team. That wide receiver core is a lot better than it used to be. And that offensive line is not terrible, but they still don't have a solid running game. Michael Carter could be an option. I don't think he's going to be great right away. I think Zach Wilson's going to have to throw. He's got decent legs. He's got the best potential to be this year's Justin Herbert, where he comes out of nowhere and really captures the league. So I agree with you on Zach Wilson. I definitely like the Jameis Winston call. I think if he is the starter, a lot of people are going to be very happy they take him late. But he did not make my sleeper list. My next sleeper is going to be one Baker Mayfield. ADP of 132, quarterback 16. There were some weird things going on in Cleveland last year. You had a new offense, a new scheme come in. You had Odell Beckham go down with an injury in week 5. You had 3 consecutive games where the weather and wind was so ridiculous. You really couldn't throw the ball. And he still was pretty okay the whole way. I do think a second year in this
And
offense.
Odell going down actually helped the offense score go up.
I think it let them just say, okay, we're going to run the ball. We're going to be more play action. Now they know that works. They'll work in Odell the same way, and it'll be a better offense. Of course, you have Higgins and Peoples-Jones with Jarvis Landry, both getting a little bit better, the young guys. And then Austin Hooper and Njoku still there at tight end. They have plenty of weapons. Kareem Hunt out of the backfield and Nick Chubb. So it's an offense that's loaded to bear. You got to think Mayfield's going to take a step in the right direction. Again, this is a contract year for him as well. So those tend to mean something for the players. And last, you can call me a homer, but I'm going to go with Tua. ADP of 156, quarterback 22. If you've watched him in the preseason, he's looked fantastic. He looks like he's healthy from the hip injury. It looks like the offseason training that he's actually had this year has done him wonders. He's got more confidence. It looks like everything it points to this team is much, much more confident in Tua today than they were 6 months ago. And I just think he's got that burst potential to really pop up. He's got a little bit of running ability. He did have some rushing touchdowns last year. Again, quarterback 22, similar to Zach Wilson. He's likely not going to be drafted. It's somebody you can take for free later or pick up off of waivers. Might be very, very happy that you did so. So now we'll move on to our bust. Joel, who do you have at your busts?
One of the Buccaneers' definite foes that may not be as much quite of one as he was in years past. One, Matt Ryan. No JJ could be big. Future in doubt, plus wear on tear, and that wholly awful defense. Frustrating year ahead. 2, another quarterback of years past, Cam Newton. As I tell you what, this season just feels like a train wreck waiting to happen. And I wrote that even before all the stuff came out today. And this just the whole COVID craziness with him, and just you're just getting a general feel of the front office is sort of the bleep. Here we go again with him. Of course, the flip coin of the Jameis Winston being a sleeper, of course, have to have a bust in there, and that is, of course, Taysom Hill was decent as a fill-in for Breeze during a very weak stretch. That's easy for me to say, very weak schedule stretch late. But it's going to be a challenge as the Saints will find themselves a face for QB shifting between. Of course, I wrote this before the last night's game, the inconsistent Winston and the gimmick-dependent Hill. Winston looked more consistent, of course. Last night looked more like his good self as opposed to the evil one. So we'll see. And I even have a fourth one that, as far as busts go, that Watson, even the best case scenario, if he is cleared and he plays, how focused on football will he be?
I'll say this with Deshaun Watson. He's not on my bust list. If he comes back and plays with Houston, there's just nothing there to support him. If he gets traded and plays the whole season, I'm going to fully disagree that Watson is not going to be a bust. But if he comes back to Houston and plays, it's not looking great. Taysom Hill, I do want to remind everybody, last year, Jameis Winston was a starter in Tampa. He had over 5,000 yards and was a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. We're looking at it from a fantasy point of view. I don't really care that he threw 30 interceptions because he made up for it with the yards and the touchdowns he did throw. He got enough rushing yards to compensate a little bit. He was a top 5 guy. Taysom Hill lost to the Eagles, who were terrible last year. Now, that does bring me to my first bust on my list. It's going to be Jalen Hurts of those Philadelphia Eagles. ADP of 87, quarterback 12. I don't like the weaponry around him. That offensive line, I still don't have a lot of confidence in. He's going to be scrambling for his life. Yes, he's good to make plays, but I just think there's better options after him. I think Matt Ryan will be better than Jalen Hurts, who's going at quarterback 15. I mentioned Baker Mayfield. Tua, both after him. Zach Wilson after him. All three I mentioned as sleepers. even someone like a Justin Fields or a Kirk Cousins that just feels more comfortable and more consistent, I'd rather have over the Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is going to have put up some great weeks, and I think he's going to put up some real soft weeks, depending on who he's playing in and what the conditions are going to be. Next, more because of where the person's being drafted right now than the actual player, but I'm going to say Josh Allen. He was the quarterback one last year. It's very hard to repeat the top guy year after year. Even Pat Mahomes had a down year or little injury could do it. He's going at quarterback 2, ADP of 30. I think you have better options there. You can wait a few rounds, pick up last year's MVP Aaron Rodgers at 52 overall, Russell Wilson at 50, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill in the 70s, even Matt Stafford at 83. I just think you have better options to wait, and he's very run heavy. At some point, he's going to get hurt on a run. It's just mathematically impossible he's going to play his entire career as a hybrid running quarterback and not get at least a minor injury that keeps him out a few weeks. So going back to the, hey, just wait. This is kind of it, but I think if you do take him, you're going to be disappointed just with the production versus expectations. Speaking of productions versus expectations, this expectation is absolutely through the roof for both the team and the player. That is the Chargers and one Justin Herbert. Not a fan of his personally, but all-time best rookie season ever. I still think he can turn around and go the wrong way. I don't trust a lot of this offense. I don't trust a lot of this defense. I don't trust a lot of this team, and they're hyped to be a contender to battle with the Chiefs. I don't buy it. The big issue for me is he's going ADP of 54, quarterback number 7. You're putting a 5th, 6th round pick into this guy, and he was not that good last year to warrant taking him over one of the good wide receivers we mentioned in those mid rounds last night. And I think it's hard to improve on the best rookie season of all time. There's a very good chance he regresses even a little bit. And since he's already, to me, juiced over his value, overpriced, a little bit of a step back with those lofty expectations would make him a bust for most people. Not someone I'm going to take anyways, because I think he's a trash can still, and he's going to revert back to being his Oregon trash can self. But if I'm wrong again, then I'll admit it. But right now I'm holding on hope that I am right. And then we'll go to the do not draft list. This is where Deshaun Watson fell for me, just because, one, he's not getting drafted right now. He just isn't. So he's going to be on your waivers. You can let the legal proceedings clear up. And then you have the information to make a good decision at that point. So don't draft him. Just wait. Let this all play out. See what happens. Get him off the waivers. If he plays, he's not suspended week 1, make a match scramble. Pick this guy up. He could be great, but I wouldn't draft him. Next is Ben Roethlisberger. He is just frankly old. You saw that arm look real tired at the end of last season after he had that surgery. He said he felt great. His arm felt as good as it's been in years. And it looked like the arm died about week 11, week 12. I think that's going to happen again. I don't think it's going to affect his receivers because his receivers are good. They'll adjust. But as far as his productivity points-wise, I think that's when you'll start to see it shift towards maybe Chase Claypool ends around, a little more focus on the running game, but I just think his arm's going to slow down again. And my number 3, probably the most surprising one on this list, is Joe Burrow. I like Joe Burrow's future. I don't like his present. He still has a terrible offensive line. He's coming off a knee injury to his plant leg. Even if the knee injury is healed, he hasn't taken a snap since he got hurt in live action. And trust me, as someone who's had knee injuries in the past, it lingers between the ears a lot more than you'd like to admit. Every time you make a move, when I play hockey to this day, or I play golf, I've done this multiple times. Every time I go and take my first couple of swings, I always think, is my knee going to hold up on this? So the first time he makes a couple throws in live action, he's going to be nervous. And every time someone gets around his feet, is he going to have happy feet, or is he going to be sturdy and strong in the pocket? I think mentally it's going to take some time to get used to. And for that, he's going to be someone I want to avoid this year only. Just this year. Anything to add on the quarterback side, Joel?
Nope.
All right. So with that, we will move to our running backs. And I do want to mention for first round picks, this is everybody picked in the first round. It is roughly a 40% bust rate. Now, a lot of these guys, they bust because of injuries. I don't count that. For me, Travis Etienne being out for 12 weeks does not make him a bust. It makes him a victim to an injury. That also does not make James Robinson a sleeper because he just became probably a third-round pick at worst. So for me, at running back, the first thing you want to think of is take the sure thing in round number 1. Looking at our best ball draft, the running backs that went in round number 1, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, all very proven, all very experienced. Number 5 was Jonathan Taylor. I don't mind that. I think there is a little bit of risk there, especially with Nyheim Hines and Marlon Mack. Zeke Elliott, perfectly fine. Nick Chubb, I'm not super high on him, but the production has been there. At 10, though, is where I have the issue with Saquon Barkley coming off the knee. You have the rumors that he may or may not be ready for week 1. He may or may not have the full snaps in week 1 or 2. It's going to be a build up to get him up to speed. I think if you have any risk in round 1, you put it off. You want to get a slam dunk. He could have taken Tyreek Hill at that spot, and I think he would have been better off. Or even Aaron Jones, who he took on the other side of the turn. I think he'd have been better off with Jones and Hill than Barkley and Jones. So focus on the big thing, the sure thing. For me, if you have an early round 1 draft slot, so 1 through 4, you want to come out of the first 3 rounds with 2 running backs. Read your draft as well. But in general, 2 running backs. If it's a wide receiver heavy, maybe you can get lucky and go 2 in the first 4. But you definitely want to get your 2 early on that are going to be your bell cow guys. There's depth at receiver. There's depth at tight end. There's depth at quarterback. There's not depth at running back. If you're late round, picks 8 and later, you almost get pigeonholed into taking 2 with your first picks. Again, read your draft. If you get 4 wide receivers in the first 7 picks for some reason, maybe you don't have to do that, but you still want to get at least 1. And remember, these have the highest injury rate on average, so you want to be prepared with lots of depth. You may want to handcuff if you get Zeke Elliott. Tony Pollard is a great option very late in the draft to put with it. Saquon Barkley, whoever's backup is now, I think it's Devontae Booker. Plan ahead, and you want to draft probably 5 or 6 overall. Get some studs, get some guys who may come up big later. Joel, any draft strategy advice on your end?
Yeah, just pretty much what you said.
All right. So let's go into our busts and let's see who we are very low on this year. Joel.
As far as busts go, going to start off with, of course, Joe Mixon, just sort of summing up with the TLDR version is 2 years of disappointment for managers. Why is this year going to be any different?
Yeah, right now he is going running back 13, 20th overall. He's had multiple disappointing years. He's had injury concerns. He's had a toughness issue because he had a toe injury last year that just lingered, and it just eventually was, nope, sorry. He's going a little too early for my taste, and he's still got a bad offensive line. The same thing I mentioned about Joe Burrow's offensive line, it's still the same for Joe Mixon. So just not a big fan of his at all.
My number 2, DeAndre Swift, because you tend to have a constant workload, endurance question mark constantly hanging around him. You might want to take a Swift pass if he pops up on your draft pick, because today you had more from Coach Coffee. I'm not sure if you saw the story about how much espresso shots I think Dan Campbell has. And you read that's like, okay, wowzers.
Yeah.
But anyway, Campbell was talking about Swift already week 1. This is from Chris Burke. Quote, "We don't know if he's going to be there. We don't know, even if he is, how much we're going to get out of him." So that's definitely, I don't know about definitely guaranteed bust, but that tends not to fill one with a lot of drafting confidence when you're going DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, he's a name I'm not looking for in the first 3 rounds. If he falls, that's one thing, but they brought in Jamal Williams. They brought in a couple other backs. They drafted another guy. late. They have a lot of options, and Dan Campbell likes to use multiple backs. So DeAndre Swift is going to be a solid player if he gets the opportunity. I just think there's going to be enough times where he gets sniped at the goal line. He, someone gets hot and they ride the other guy's hand a little bit. I agree with you there. He wasn't on my list, but he was someone I considered for a bust.
And my final one might surprise some people because Las Vegas Raiders running back Josh Jacobs. Yeah, I mean, he really, really helped people last year, and with his top 8 finish in half PPR leagues in 2020. And I tell you, this new season, it's not going to be the same. You have the offseason signing of Kenyon Drake. Jacobs and Drake both had top 10 finishes in carries, rushing touchdowns, and touches for the 2020 season. And the near identical context hasn't brought Jacobs round. All just his ADP is really hurting because of this, and he's going to still look good statistically, and you're going to be tempted. I think I would put a hard pass though.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs overall 27th, RB16 on Fantasy Pros. In our best ball draft, you went with pick 47, 5.7 round and pick, which I think 5.7 is fair. The real question is what's going to happen with the addition of Kenyon Drake. Is Kenyon Drake going to eat into his workload? Is he going to be more the passing down back? What's going to be very strong for the Raiders as a team is having such a good tandem of running backs, but when it comes to fantasy, I think it kind of kills both of them. Someone else I did consider. I just think they're going a little. The ADP is going to keep dropping on Josh Jacobs, which is why I didn't put him in my list. All right, so we've already gone over Joe Mixon on my list. My next one is Najee Harris. He's going RB10, 16th overall as a rookie. Yes, he's going to be the number one guy there, but James Conner wasn't great behind that line. Any of his backups when he was out did not do great behind that offensive line. It's still a bad offensive line. For a rookie in the second round, it's a little bit rich. You look back at last year where you had Clyde Edwards-Helaire hype, and he did not live up to it. I just think he's going too early in the draft. He will be a solid third, fourth, fifth round pick. If you're looking at your production, late third to early fifth, I think is where you're going to get him. Somewhere in the mid-teens to early 20s, I think is where he's going to wrap up for production. I don't think he's going to give you top 10 numbers. And my last one is Nick Chubb. I know that's controversial. His ADP and RB are both number 5 overall. He's got Kareem Hunt to vulture all the passing numbers. He's got increases I'm projecting with Baker Mayfield in the passing game because, well, you're getting Odell Beckham Jr. back, and you've got some other good weapons. So I do think the passing numbers are going to increase for Baker Mayfield, which takes the ball out of Chubb's hands. He will be very good. I don't think he's going to be top 5. He may just be on the bottom end of the top 10, but if you're drafting number 5 overall, a little bit of a bust. I don't think it's going to be a cataclysmic one. Not a Saquon Barkley gets injured in week 2 level of bust, but I just don't think you're going to be quite as happy skipping over, Zeke Elliott, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones for Nick Chubb, which is what's going on in some and maybe many of the leagues. I know the Nick Chubb one's a little like, ooh, that's spicy. Yeah, I understand. Anyways, as we go to our sleepers, these are people we think are going to be much better than their ADP. Joel.
Then I've got to actually have to disagree with you on Hunt because I'll tell you.
Hunt I have no issue with. It's Chubb I have the problem with. Hunt I think could be very good.
Because he's not exactly what you would call an unknown entity. We're talking that even with Chubb in the same backfield, Hunt put up numbers that made him RB10 last year. And so if you can get Hunt at RB21,
that's where he's going.
Yeah, so kind of crazy. I know maybe on the edge of being a sleeper, yay, nay, but like you were saying, not on the edge of being a bust for Chubb. So sort of the reverse with me and Hunt. Singletary and Moss sort of as a combination, I think, because with Foles as QB, one of these should emerge as the primary back, and of course, the most brilliant coach in the entire NFL. Hashtag hashtag sarcasm goes running back by committee. And number 2 RB sleeper, somebody that I picked up in the best ball that I was very happy right before your pick, as I was wondering if you were going, is Joel going to get Gaskin? Is Joel going to get Gaskin? Boom, Joel got Gaskin. And yes, look for him to build on that great performance from last year. Young offensive line, and if he can stay healthy, watch out. So that's my 3rd running back sleeper for 2021. One
I was
Miles
not.
Gaston.
I was not going Gaskin. I got the guy I wanted. We'll go over that in the next podcast. But I got who I wanted the pick after you took Gaskin. I was very happy with that. Anyways, for me, the sleepers, I'm going to agree on Zach Moss with the Bills. I think he takes control of this team as the running back. They're going to want to put the running back in motion more. They're going to want to get more out of that rushing game. I think the big thing that hurt them against the great teams in the AFC, the Chiefs, the Titans, the ones that beat them, are they could run the ball just enough to keep them off balance where the Bills could not. I think Zach Moss could be that next step to get the Bills to properly a Super Bowl contender, which right now I think they're just below it.
Segueing just briefly back to the pick with the Sports Shuffle of Audible. So you're buying into the Claypool hype.
I said he was going to be a sleeper yesterday. I said him and Robbie Anderson were both going to be sleepers. I took them in back-to-back picks in the 7th and 8th round, and I was getting ready to do Marquise Brown, but he went a little before it. He went in the 11th round, and who did I take in round 11 of this draft? I took Zach Moss, who is on my list as a sleeper at running back. You have to be willing to be adaptable, and I like Zach Moss, but I did stick by what I said yesterday with the sleepers, the guys I actually believe in, Claypool and Robbie Anderson. I would have been more than happy to take Marquise Brown. The 2 other guys on my list at running back, they went before I could get to them. 1 by 1 pick, actually went right before Robbie Anderson, is Damian Harris of the Patriots. I think Sony Michel's going to be out of town. I think Sony Michel has a very good chance of ending up in LA. Darrell Henderson now with a little injury. Cam Akers already out for the season. It's possible they bring in somebody else. Sony Michel has a good pedigree, a good background. Hasn't been a great pro, but I think that's as much the Patriot system. But with Mac Jones or Cam Newton, they're going to want to get the ball into the running back's hand to put pressure off of that quarterback. And I think they're going to finally go to Damian Harris. I would have been happy taking him, but he went right before my pick of Robbie Anderson. And my last one is, by the way, Damian Harris, RB 31, ADP of 74. Zach Moss, RB 35, ADP of 90. So these are guys you can get as an RB3 that have a good potential of being at least an RB2, if not better. And my third one is David Johnson of the Houston Texans. He is still the starting running back for the Houston Texans. Yes, Houston's going to be bad, but his ADP is 102, and he's RB 39. He is still going to be the starter for that team. They're going to be behind. Yes, he's not going to run a lot, but David Johnson's a hell of a receiver out of the backfield too. He's going to get numbers in the passing game. He's going to be the biggest factor on their offense if he stays healthy. At ADP of 102, you're looking in a 10-team league, an 11th round pick for a starting running back. It's an absolute steal, and it doesn't take much to beat your RB 39 ADP. It doesn't. It's almost a certainty he's going to do better than that. All right, so to our running back do not draft list. We're gonna beat this dead horse again. Joe Mixon, avoid. This is a team that has no line, 3 great wide receivers in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. I know there's some Chase drum out there, but we're not going to go into that too much. I should have known when someone was interested suddenly in Tyler Boyd. There was a reason for it. But Joe Mixon, I just think is going to bust. I don't trust him. He's hurt me too many times. Not going back to the well again. So Joe Mixon, just avoid him. Next one, Melvin Gordon. He's going to lose his job. If he hasn't already lost it, he's going to lose his job. He has name recognition. He right now may or may not be the starter. Javonte Williams is going to take that job. In our best ball, he went 9.2, so he went pick 82 for Melvin Gordon. Javonte Williams went at 5.8, so pick 43. 3. Shows you the difference in value. But there are people still picking Melvin Gordon. Do not do that. Just let him go. Unless you also get Javonte Williams and you want to handcuff, avoid Melvin Gordon. And last, I'm going to pick on your Bucks. And I'm going to say don't take Ronald Jones. I think Leonard Fournette in the playoffs took the reins on that job. Ronald Jones will have a role, but I think he's going to be an RB2. They've already mentioned Gio Bernard's going to have a role, not to mention Leonard Fournette, I think, is going to be the league dog. So at that point, Ronald Jones just is not worth it for me. Ronald Jones right now, scrolling, where is he? He's down a little bit. RB 31, 74 overall. It's not a huge investment, but I just think he's got a little too much risk with all the other mouths to feed in the passing game, and then Gio Bernard and Leonard Fournette in the backfield.
Yeah, one I'm going to toss out there definitely with an uncertain future. One, your former favorite players, Le'Veon Bell. Just when you have one of the news stories that's generally attached to his name within recent times is his career coming to an end. You had him call out Andy Reid on social media as a part of the whole cluster bleep in KC. Just wherever he tends to go, there always tends to be some sort of drama. So I would definitely have to add him to the stay far away.
Yeah, he is still toxic. He's not on a roster, which really does help with the not drafting him thing. But if he signed with the Rams, do not be fooled. He is not the answer. I'd rather have Xavier Jones. I'd rather have Jake Funk. I'd rather have Joel Rai running in the backfield over Le'Veon Bell in a lot of ways.
Would you rather draft Joe Mixon than Le'Veon?
I would much rather draft Joe Mixon than Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is, honestly, Joe Mixon falls to the 3rd or 4th round. I'm pulling the trigger and I'll take my chances. Ronald Jones falls to round 9, 10 all day. Melvin Gordon, if he's in the late rounds, that's fine. Le'Veon Bell could be the only person on the draft board. I wouldn't take him. Honestly, I'd be like, I'll take the blank slip of paper, just a permanent bye week. I'll take that. I have no interest in him. So good thing right now he's not on a team, but he is a name that could pop up. So it's kind of good to put a warning out there. Hey, don't take him. Not worth your time. Avoid.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
All right, so that is going to wrap up our prepared remarks for quarterbacks and running backs. We did our wide receivers and tight ends yesterday. You can see that on a video either above or below, depending on what site you're looking on us on. We do now have a YouTube page. It is Sports Shuffle Official on YouTube. You can go check that out. It's only got the last 3 or 4 episodes because I'm lazy and I don't want to go back a year and a half because, well, frankly, nobody wants to watch picks from us from 2020 when it's 2021. So we'll be uploading all of our videos to YouTube. We may put some random stuff up there that does not go on the Facebook page, or maybe not. I don't know. It's still a brand new work in progress. So we will be coming back shortly to do our best ball review. We're going to save our final thoughts that I know everybody waits and wants us to talk about. We will do that at the end of the best ball review, which we will be starting here in just a second. So with that, that is our projections. Take them for what you will. I've already had somebody go back to me. He's like, hey, I don't agree with any of your stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know. We never do. So take it for what you will. Those are just our opinions, what we're thinking. We didn't, and this is intentional, we didn't go out and say, I'm really high on this person. I'm really high on this person. Because we don't want to give those picks away because we want to save them for, well, when we draft. Because I don't want to go and say, I'm using this name because it's the number 1 overall pick. I'm so high on Christian McCaffrey, and hypothetically, he's going 9th. Then Joel's got the 7th pick. He knows, well, Ryan's really high on him. I'm going to take him. So we did not do who we're really, really high on. We'll do that after we draft. We will tell you who we're really, really high on for those people who are still drafting. I have my full draft schedule. So, Labor Day weekend is my last one. So our first one before the regular season, we'll go over who we're super high on. We'll make our full season projections at that time as well for team, Super Bowl, all of that stuff. So with that, we'll be back shortly with our best ball draft recap. We're gone.